tension between the opposite selves in any given set of opposites. And then B actually moves into the world and makes choices, staying connected to both sides. So there's no collapsing with the aware ego process. There's no collapsing into one self or the other. It's really like almost like a teeter-totter, trying to stay in the middle. And so if you're making a big decision, do I buy the house or no? And you have part of you that's really gung-ho about buying this house, and part of you that's really not so sure it's a good idea. Then a lot of times what we'll do is we'll collapse into whatever part we like better. So, let's buy the house. It seems like a great idea, and we go and forward with the house buying, and this self never really gets the time of day. And then afterwards, you wake up and you feel like, oh no, what have I done? It's called the slap of the inner critic. It's like this, you made a big mistake, and that can feel really uncomfortable. Whereas with this aware ego process, you're really hearing and connected to what this side is saying. And even if you choose to buy the house, you're sort of like, okay, I heard you, I'm conscious of the concerns you have, you're coming with me, let's go, we're all in this together. And one of the images the Stones use, which I find really beautiful, of the aware ego process is like a conductor. And it's using all the instruments, all the different selves, to sing the song of the soul. And it knows, oh, we want a little bit more of this, and not so much of this. And none of them are rejected out of hand. None of the selves are just like, oh no, we don't want that. Like, there's room for all the members of the orchestra. And the aware ego learns to really dance with the opposites and with the different selves. So that is the 3 aspects of voice dialogue. How's everybody doing? We need a stretch break? We're doing all right?
I have a question.
Sure.
I just feel like there's so much splintering that can happen. There's so many cells. I don't really have a sense of identifying. We talked about the perfectionist, but I certainly have that. But there are like lots of other ones too. So
Sure.
I wonder about that because you're saying that they're like primary ones.
Right.
So I wonder how you identify those. Like what kind of process is required to really get to those.
Well, that's really what voice dialogue facilitation is all about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens. And you're about to see that, actually, because
Okay.
we're going to do one of those. So for me, that's where I have been able to start. There's kind of a mapping that happens in voice dialogue facilitation where you're saying, okay, and you can either do it by, most of the time, what I've done is identify struggles. Okay, this is not working. Can you please help me? And then we sort of tease out, okay, who are the selves that work here? What's coming up? What's happening? And you step into that self, and that self holds forth. It's like this and this and and then you come out of it, and you sort of can say, okay, all right, I see that. I have that. That's a part of who I am. And there's no demonizing. It's like, we do, because we have that judge, critic running all the time. But the work is learning how, and the facilitator really holds this space of spacious, like, oh, you're this part of Sita. I see you. Okay, I'm trying to help Sita hear you and understand where you're coming from and what it is you're wanting or needing or how you see the world. And then you come out, and the idea is that you separate from that, so then you're no longer collapsed into it. And then we say, okay, what's on the other side? And then you see, oh, this is what I didn't even know I didn't know. It's right there. And they want to come out, these selves. And then you learn how to stay in between them. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. Mr. Goldstein? So, you can use this chair and the couch, and I'll sit here.
Okay.
If that's
Yeah, yeah. I'll see if I don't even know if I want this yet, but
okay.
I'll have it available.
Okay. That's okay.
Okay.
So this is actually my partner, David. who's-
Say full disclosure.
And he has generously agreed to do
I've I've actually had a couple, we did one or two way
Yeah, I
back
think
in the
that's
day.
right.
And I've seen her teach her for real
Session.
actual sessions,
Uh-huh.
yeah, as well. So I'm a little familiar with the process. And the client.
He's the client.
Yeah.
I'm the facilitator. Okay,
Okay,
welcome.
thank you.
So let's just take a minute to kind of center, and drop in, and it's a little awkward with all these eyes. This doesn't usually happen like this. So just tell me what you think you'd like to work on.
Well, I guess one of the main things that's been coming up is that I've known for a long time that I'm a teacher and I have taught, but one of the things that I've carried with me for many years is the idea of I haven't really found out what it is I really want to teach. I've taught like SATs, I've taught different things, but it wasn't really where my full heart, was. And then, recently, I feel like I've gotten a much better sense of what that is, of what it turns me on, it fills me with a sense of purpose. But I've watched how I keep kind of bouncing off of that. Like, I get filled up with a real excitement about it, but then something kind of, then I veer away from it, or I get confused, or I don't keep moving forward with it. So I wanted to see what's going to work with that a little bit.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
And because we haven't worked together in many moons, and because we're in a very unusual setting, I definitely want to start by talking to your protector.
Okay.
So I'd like you to drop in and touch with the part of you that's keeping you safe. Kind of generally the part that keeps you safe in the world, but especially that's keeping you safe here in this room. And I'd like you to go wherever in the room that part of you would be.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, maybe over here actually. Yes. Okay.
So you are David's protector.
Yeah.
And how do you protect him?
I just make sure that he's safe. I
How do you-
kind of take in the environment, and I just look to see if there's any areas of concern where possible, where things might go a certain way where David would feel threatened or even feel kind of too uncomfortable or something like
Where
that.
you would feel threatened.
That's
Where
right.
you would feel
Where I
threatened.
would feel threatened.
That's right. Okay, great. And so we're in this kind of unusual setting here to be asking some questions of different parts of David.
Yeah.
Are you feeling like this context works, is safe for you?
Yeah, I do.
Do you have any concerns?
No, kind of taken in the environment. I feel safe, I feel secure.
Okay.
Yeah.
If anything comes up during the course of the session, I'd like you to maybe try to move back to the center. Show up in David's head so he knows and can move back to the center, and then I'd like to check in with you about it.
Okay.
Because it's really important to me that we're on a team together, because you're the one that's really protecting him.
Yeah. Okay.
Great, thank you very much. All right, let's go back to David. Okay, can you feel a difference?
Yeah,
Not quite as vigilant
feel
as
a little more
scanning?
solid.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, so with this thing, it sounds like you are kind of connected to a part that really kind of wants to go for it. But then there's something that's sort of evasive maneuvering almost.
Yeah, like
Do you
that.
have a sense of what that part is?
The evasive part?
Mhm.
Well, it's just a part that wants to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Wants to make sure that, that there's not messiness.
Okay. And do you feel like one of the two parts is primary?
That part's probably primary.
Okay.
That part, I feel like runs the show decent amount of time probably,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And also because you're finding that you're not actually moving out into the world with
Right.
these new ideas, so that's actually what's
Kind of
happening.
evidence-based.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Okay, good. So, just time, we always start with the primary self. Always, always, always. So that's one of the things that we discern together, is which self is primary. Okay, we're coming back in now.
Mhm.
So great. Does it feel like you're ready to talk to that
Yeah.
part? Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk to the part of you that doesn't like things to be messy.
okay. So, maybe over here.
Okay?
Okay.
So I've been hearing a little bit about you. You're the part of David that's really wanting to make sure things don't go wrong. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And he's having some ideas come up. Some part of him gets really fired up about this teaching thing, and he has more clarity lately about what that might look like. And how are you with that?
I'm not completely comfortable with it.
Can you tell me more about why?
The ideas that David's having are, they don't really, fit anywhere. They don't
Anywhere?
fit like in any kind of like box, like tradition, or like institutional something where you can say, okay, that's what this is, got it, like, it's approved.
I see.
I'm not sure where the stamp of approvals are.
I see.
with
And
this.
that's something that's very important for you
Yes,
as a stamp of approval.
yes,
So somebody's kind of blazed the trail already,
right,
and then David could walk that
kind of
trail.
fits in to that
Uh-huh.
and does that thing,
Right,
right,
right. And this feels kind of off the
This is
blazing trail,
off
the
the-
trail, off the path.
off, this is, yeah.
And what are your concerns about him walking down a path that hasn't actually been?
That, I have a lot of concerns.
Yeah, I bet. Just fire away. Mull it
That he's gonna be laughed at,
Mhm.
that he's going to, like be messy, like not really, like, know what he's talking about.
What happens if he doesn't know what he's talking about?
Then he shouldn't be teaching.
Oh,
I
why?
mean, because that's how teaching works.
I see.
You learn something and then you teach it.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
you know,
What happens if he gets laughed at?
yeah, I don't know exactly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that laughed at. It's more like, yeah, I don't know. It's more like it's not. This is what comes up. It's not safe. That's what comes up.
Mhm.
It's not. That's what that authorized thing keeps
Mhm.
coming up.
Mhm.
You know.
So there's some kind of danger.
Yeah.
What
there's
is
some
the
kind of-
danger?
The danger is he'll be exposed in some way, or he'll be out there a little too much, like, and that's, I'm pretty on guard not to let that happen.
Because if it does,
Then you don't know what's gonna happen. Then it's like,
you know what's gonna happen.
then it's like, you know, like the Secret Service with the president, you're scanning the entire time.
That's you.
That's
You're like
me.
the
I'm
Secret
scanning
Service.
the entire
Uh-huh.
time.
And you just don't want to have any variables
Right,
that you can't
Right.
handle. Take care
right.
of.
Like when David was teaching SATs, it was like SATs.
Very
You
clear.
know what the hell they are.
Yep.
People are paying a lot of money for it.
Yep.
David's good at it,
Yep.
and it's all good,
Mhm.
you know?
How long have you been a part of David's life?
Long time. Probably from when he was, yeah, long time.
Mhm. And does he listen to you?
He does
Mhm.
pretty well,
Mhm.
yes, actually.
Mhm. So do you feel like he is aware of your concerns about this path?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I do,
Mhm. Okay.
I do.
Is there anything you'd like him to know that maybe you want to be absolutely sure he knows? Because this is a really good time. He's listening to you right now.
Yeah, it's just realize that, that it's a dangerous world out there.
Mm.
And it's fine to do what you want and all, but not at the expense of, exposing yourself too much.
Safety.
Safety, yeah.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Let's go back to David.
Okay.
Okay, kind of walk around. Shut
Yeah.
off.
I know from experience when you go into it's a good thing. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so anything noticeable for you there?
Yeah, it just feels familiar. It feels familiar in the literal sense of the word.
Uh-huh.
Like family, like it was the atmosphere, and mostly not even necessarily overtly, but like underneath a lot of, like the cultural atmosphere of a lot of my family,
Yeah.
I would say.
Great. So for the sake of time, I'm going to move us along,
Good,
if that's all right.
let's do it. Yeah,
Okay, so let's look to the other side, the part of
Okay.
you that finally figured out
yeah,
what it is you want to teach,
Yeah.
has a lot of passion about
Yeah.
it, and is just raring to go.
yeah.
Where would that part be?
Yeah, it feels good. Here. Yeah,
All right, so you're the part that has a kind of sense of where you want to go
yeah,
in David's life.
yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I don't know how much of it's a sense of exactly where I want to go, but it's a sense of I just want to go for it.
Yeah, what is it you want to go for?
Just life,
Mm.
like, just get your face in there and, just don't worry so much about everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't
Yeah.
worry, and and like, things will happen, whatever.
So you're not as worried about the lack of safety, or
No, I kind of like it.
you like it?
A little
You
bit.
You kind of feel
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It
that's
gives
part
you-
of it. Yeah.
What do you like about it?
I like the excitement of it.
Mhm.
I like the mystery of it.
Mm.
I like the energy of it. There's a lot of energy in not like checking in with everything all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, I can feel that energy in you right now.
Yeah.
It's really apparent.
Partly because, this is maybe a whole other stuff, but partly because of what's right, what's thought of as right, I don't necessarily ascribe to.
Right,
So,
so you're ready to blaze a trail,
right,
a new trail,
right,
because you're not really all that interested in any of the trails that have been blazed, is that right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does David know about you?
Yeah, he knows about me
Uh-huh. And do you feel like you get to come out in his life?
more and more.
Uh-huh.
There's still definitely a show yourself, okay, that's enough, Kinda
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah, and how is that for you?
I don't like being checked.
I can imagine you
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so, what are you wanting?
I'm wanting free reign.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm wanting to play my part in life.
And what happens when you can't do that? When those reins are pulled in?
What happens? I feel frustrated. I feel like caged.
Mm.
I feel caged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to help David get a sense of, for you, what's at stake here? Like if he just keeps going with the other side and really kind of keeps the reins
Mhm.
tight on you, what's he gonna lose from your perspective?
Yeah, he's gonna lose, like, taking, big ass bites of the apple, and
Which
experiencing
apple is that?
The apple of life, I don't know, apple.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah,
You're gonna miss out on that.
yeah,
And
I'm
that's
gonna
really
set on it.
what gives you a lot of juice.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
really a great pleasure to meet you.
Welcome.
Let's go back to David. All right. Anything you want to comment on?
No, it just, feels, I know this is going on right now in my
Yeah.
life. So I'm just keep working it,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I'm wondering if right now you can feel the tension between them.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I mean, I know what's going on, and so like this helps me like, okay, this is what's going on, and it's, I like feeling the tension, at the same time, it's a little uncomfortable too, because it's like, whoa, it's like literally like that, so, but it feels like each time I get a little more, what's the word, like, traction with it,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like being able to hold both,
Mhm.
yeah.
This one's always going to be with you. And it's really important that you stay connected, but you have more choice. And I think this one has a lot to offer you.
Yeah, me too.
They both do.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, David, very
You're
much.
welcome.
Okay, so now we have 2.5 minutes for questions. Sorry about that. Yeah. So I'm curious if anybody has any questions or, yeah.
So in that dialogue with the other selves, would it normally be an appropriate question to talk about the age or the maturity of these other selves?
That happens for sure.
Okay.
There's all kinds of questions. I mean, so the sessions I recommend are 2 hours. And the reason is because we really take our time to really bring that self, each self out. And we want to talk to at least 2, sometimes more in a given session. But definitely we want to talk to both sides of whatever the issue is. And we talk about the age, we talk about who in that person's family do you resemble? Like, is there anybody in their life that looks like you? Or we might say, if you were a character in a movie, who would you be? There's all kinds of ways to get a sense. Or if I close my eyes, what do you look like? Things like that. There's all kinds of questions. But ultimately, we're really trying to get a sense of what that self is longing for, what it's hungry for, what it's protecting, and what we want to help the self articulate why it's so important that David or whoever it is listen to them, so that then the person can separate and say, oh, there's the vulnerability, and have that awareness and that spacious compassion for what's going on for each of the selves. Thanks. Any other questions?
When you're specifically working with someone on per se the issue or the subject that they're going to be working on, how, there's 2 selves or there's 3, but how many selves can there be on within one thing that you're wanting to?
Well, that's a
work
question. Usually it comes down to 2 or 3 or 4
Okay.
on per issue. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to kind of pin them down so you can travel around a little bit around the room where you have to bring in other chairs, so there's space for all the cells. But usually we try to go deeper with fewer cells than
Yeah.
get a tasting of many cells in one session.
Yeah.
So ideally we would do 2 only, but
Okay.
sometimes another part just shows up. So a lot of the times when you're in a self, other cells are like, and on the other hand, well, I got something to say about that, and so a lot of times, even when in my sessions, I'll be going, okay, I'm gonna get there, I promise, trying to do this and really just focus in. And that's part of the work of the facilitator, is I'm holding the energy. And I'm the one noticing when the person is slipping out of a self or bringing in another self. And then I can decide and say, all right, it feels important that we just move into this. Why don't you just move over and let that self speak? Or, we're going to stick with this self. This feels really important. We'll get there eventually. It's like that.
Okay. My next question would be, are you always working specifically on an issue or something that you're struggling with to discover the selves, or can,
Not necessarily. It
okay.
could be something you're really excited about or passionate about that you need to kind of flesh out. I mean, a little bit like tonight.
Yeah.
There doesn't have to be a struggle there, but tends to be where the pain is, where you really get insight into what needs to happen.
Yeah.
But for me personally, the work that I do with my teacher is, well, it's partly support for my practice of holding space for other people, but it's also just wanting to know myself more and wanting to find out who's in there and what they have to offer and how I can dance with more of who I am. And that feels really nourishing to me. So we're at the end. I'm happy to stay and answer any questions anybody has. I'm not in a hurry to get out of here, but I just want to acknowledge that. And I have half off of first session coupons for anybody who's interested. And I have a sign-up sheet if you're open to just put your name and email and whether you'd like to be on the mailing list or if you're interested in a session, and then I can contact you if you want, or you can also contact me.
I have a question about, do you usually work with an issue, like someone comes in with an issue so you see them for a certain number of times, or do you view it as an ongoing process?
It could be either. It depends on your resources, your commitment, your interest. I will probably be doing voice dialogue for the rest of my life. I mean, I don't know, but it feels like that now. Like I've been doing sessions with my teacher since 2011, and twice a month, pretty regular, and I just find it's like so nourishing. But if I have a big issue, like sometimes David will schedule a certain number of sessions to try to address an issue. Sorry, that wasn't a violation. You said you'd work with Jamie. But yeah, they can be any number of ways. It's great for just if you need to make a really big decision, you schedule 2 sessions and just hammer it out. I mean, the Stones really say, don't decide to get married or buy a house until you've heard from both sides again and again and again until there's really like no charge on either side. And then you can choose. Just to really feel like your whole self is going into it, whatever the decision you make is.
Is there such a thing as couples therapy doing voice dialogue?
There is. Jamie does that up in Portland, and when she does it, the way it works is both people are there, but you work with one person per session. So you work themselves in front of the other partner, and then at the end, there's time for the partner to say, oh, this is what came up for me, and this is what I noticed, and this is my 2 cents, if you will. And then the next session, you swap. So it doesn't happen so much in the session itself. And I just also want to say that supplementary to the work with the selves, which you just witnessed, I also do dream work. In voice dialogue, we see every person in the dream as a different self. So you can bring in a dream and we can work it and talk to the different parts and see what's wanting to be seen. Usually the dream ego, the you in the dream, is the primary self. And then also, I find creative art to be extremely powerful with working with selves. So collaging selves, doing clay, like calling in a self while you're working with clay or painting, just to give expression through the unconscious to selves is extremely powerful. Getting out of the mind, and the creative arts work can also do that. And of course, meditation is also very helpful for getting a little bit of separation from the selves that run our lives.
Is this different from parts work? Is that a different?
I'm not sure exactly what parts work is. We work with parts, obviously, in voice dialogue, but it's called voice dialogue. And there's a certain, parts work, maybe if it's like Gestalt, the parts talk to each other.
Yeah.
That's not what happens in voice dialogue. The parts never talk to each other.
Oh, interesting.
It's always the facilitator talking to parts, and then the person in the middle is developing the aware ego process. So that conductor is calling in the energies of the different selves, but they're not
actually talking.
they're not engaging each other because they just are what they are. They're just doing what they do. And so getting them to talk to each other isn't necessarily supportive in the modality of voice dialogue within the framework of hope you guys have a sense of it a little bit. Good, good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I get really excited about this stuff.
Yeah,
You can probably tell. Yeah, would people like one of these coupons? Okay, great. I'm just gonna jot your names down on them. So Marnie, and first name is fine, and Chris. Great. And what? Would you like one?
I would.
Great. And one thing I do, are you Ray?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm so
too.
glad you were able to come.
Yeah.
Is it WREN? Okay, great. Would you like one of these? Yes. Okay, great. And I am also doing right now, it's already full, but a collage class to collage different selves. And we're working with 4 different sets of opposites over
Oh, I got
8
that.
weeks. I can take that. I think that might be everybody. And I'll do that again. So if you sign up for my mailing list, or you can see it, it'll be on my website again. That's also a fun way to kind of just try to touch into selves and then see what the unconscious tells you about them as you draw pictures from magazines. I always like that. Yes,
How many people are in that class?
6 at the moment. Of the 8 weeks. That's kind of the cutoff, given the size of the space, and just so we can all make it work. But I'm planning to do it again, so I'll definitely put the word out on that. And then I'm going to do this again. So if you know other people that might benefit from it, it'd be great if you want to spread the word. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you. So is it always a 2-hour session, or is that just introduction?
That's ideal. I actually, because of financial reasons, have asked for 1.5-hour sessions with my teacher. And every time, I'm usually like, okay, we're gonna stop. So I do give the option for clients to do 1.5 hours, but it definitely can't go shorter than that. So if there's financial constraints or whatever. And I don't know if I said, but I'm happy to say my fee is $65 an hour. So just if you need that information, that can be helpful too. So yeah. And the office is at my house. It's in the WIT. It's totally private and pretty easy to find. So yeah, cool. If you're interested, just let me know.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure. So great that you all came.